You know, every single second of the day, your brain is doing something absolutely incredible. Totally behind the scenes. It's sorting, it's filing, and it's labeling everything you see and do. It's kind of like this silent superpower that lets you make sense of the world. But what happens when that amazing filing system starts to break down? That's what we're going to get into.
So let's start with a quick question for you. Is a penguin a bird? Just think about it for a second. You got your answer?
Okay, now what about this one? Is a robin a bird?
I'm willing to bet that your brain just snapped to an answer on that second question. Like, instantly. But the first one? Maybe it caused just a little hesitation, a tiny bit of a lag. That split-second difference is exactly what we're talking about today. And it tells us so much about the secret shortcuts your brain uses to get through the day.
So what's going on here? Well, the process is called categorization. It's the super fundamental thing our brain does, grouping stuff together based on what's similar about them. And it's not just for, apples and oranges. It's how we organize actions, ideas, pretty much everything. It's basically the architecture of how we think.
And as the brilliant cognitive linguist George Lakoff pointed out way back in 1987, this whole thing is so automatic, so deep-seated we don't even notice we're doing it. It just feels like we're seeing the world for what it is. But really, our brain is running this incredibly complex sorting program in the background all the time.
So how in the world does this internal filing system actually work? Well, it's not just about keeping things neat and tidy, it's all about speed and efficiency.
And here's the crucial thing to understand. Your brain is lazy. I mean that in the best possible way. The whole point of categorization, according to the groundbreaking research of Eleanor Rosch, is to be as efficient as it can be, to get the most information about something while using the least amount of brain power.
And this efficiency leads us to this really cool idea called prototype theory. The theory goes that for any category, say bird, our brain doesn't store a list of rules. Instead, it holds on to a perfect shining example, a prototype, and then every new thing we see gets compared back to that one ideal model.
This brings us right back to the penguin and the robin. A robin is your classic, prototypical bird. It's small, it flies, it chirps, it checks all the mental boxes. A penguin, though, well, it's a non-prototypical member of the club. It swims, it can't fly, it lives in the freezing cold, so your brain has to do a little extra work, a few more calculations to confirm that, yep, it still belongs in the bird category.
Now this system is incredibly effective, most of the time, but it's also pretty fragile. So what happens when the parts of the brain that do all this lightning-fast sorting get damaged?
Well, we see this happen in conditions like aphasia. That's a language disorder that can be caused by a stroke or some other kind of brain injury. And here's the thing, it doesn't just mess with your ability to talk. Researchers have found that it can fundamentally change other cognitive processes, like that very ability to categorize the world around you.
And it's not just one thing. Because categorization is so central to how our brain works, we see this problem pop up in a whole range of neurological conditions, from different types of dementia, like Alzheimer's, to very specific kinds of aphasia that affect either producing or understanding language.
Okay, so how do we really know this is happening? To get to the bottom of it, researchers Juvito, DaCosta, and Late decided to do a major deep dive into the scientific literature to see what the hard evidence actually said. And they weren't just glancing at a couple of papers. No, they did a huge integrative review. They analyzed 25 different scientific articles, all of them digging into this connection between these conditions and our ability to sort and categorize things.
And you can really get a sense of how thorough this was. They looked at all kinds of sorting. There's semantic categorization, which is just our basic grasp of what words mean. Then there's the prototypical stuff we just talked about. They even looked at rule-based and grammatical sorting, and they looked at this across all these different patient groups. It just goes to show you how many layers this one cognitive skill really has.
So what was the big takeaway from all of this work? Well, the conclusion was pretty stark, and it was consistent. Across the board, the evidence pointed in one direction. People with aphasia or dementia face a much, much higher cognitive cost when they have to do these categorization tasks that a healthy brain does without even thinking about it.
So what does cognitive cost actually mean? Well, think of it like your computer trying to run a really demanding program, but you've got way too many tabs open. It slows right down, it struggles, and might even freeze up. That's what's happening in the brain. It has to pull in massive resources to do something that used to be completely effortless.
So, why does all of this matter? This is way more than just some abstract scientific finding. Understanding this connection really changes how we think about language, the brain, and honestly, the human experience itself.
Here's how it all connects. It starts with damage to the brain, which affects our semantic memory. That's basically our brain's internal dictionary. When that gets weakened, the very knowledge of what makes a category, well, a category, starts to fall apart. And the result of that is that simple everyday things like naming an object or even just sorting your laundry can become a massive daily struggle.
And this, right here, is probably the most important thing to take away from all this. For someone with aphasia or dementia, the struggle isn't just about trying to find the right word. It's so much deeper than that. It's the entire mental framework, the whole system we use to organize and understand reality, starting to break down.
Which really leaves us with a final, powerful thought. We totally take this ability for granted, but categorization is what turns a chaotic flood of information into a world of meaningful objects and ideas. So, what is a world without categories? It's a world without order, a world without connection, and maybe a world without meaning.